computer. Okay, recording in progress. Lovely. So this is the first card I'm going to make, and I've kept it quite simple with just some blue papers. And I actually saw this just simple technique with the ribbon and the die on Pinterest. And I thought it was a genius idea to use with this fluted die. This die is the scalloped contour dies. It's one of the biggest ones in the set. So I've kept it quite simple with some stamping on my label, and then I've coloured in my little kitty cat. But I'll show you a little technique you can use just to give your cat a little bit more texture. It's difficult to see on here, but I've raised the cupcake case onto pads and curved it a little bit, so he does actually look like he's sitting in a cupcake. And I'll talk you through that. So simply with this card, you've got a balmy blue card base, and you've got your piece of blue spotty DSP, and that just sits on the front. It's only ever so slightly smaller than that card front, but on the back of that DSP you've got this lovely stripe. So it's up to you which side you use. You don't see too much of it, so actually you could get away with doing the stripe if you wanted to, and that's the sort of look that you would get with using the stripe. I think I still like the spots, because the spots just remind me of the little balloon that we're going to stamp. So I'm going to stick that on my card to start us off. I'm just sticking this down flat with some wet glue. A few more people coming in. Just letting everybody else in. So once we've done that, you've also got in your kit a smaller piece of white card. Now this smaller piece is just your strengthening piece for inside your card. Because we're going to put quite a lot of weight on the front, and I've left this blank inside, because if you don't put anything in the back is quite flimsy. So just to add some balance to how your card feels, I'm just sticking a piece of white card in that card base, and also it just helps your writing stand out a little bit, I think. I sometimes struggle to see things if they're on a coloured background. So that's my card base started. Once we've got that far, we can put it to one side, because we're not going to need that for the moment. We're going to work on our scalloped rectangle. So for this card, we're just going to use the cat stamp to start us off. I love this cat. I just thought he was lovely when I saw him in the catalogue. I say he, but it doesn't really matter. Evening, Becky.
Good evening.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good, good. Thanks for joining us.
It's lovely. I've got this set arriving on Monday. I thought it was
you
going to be today, but it didn't come.
Oh, my delivery got delayed today as well, actually. All of mine was the final bits for the card class this month, and it's been delayed till Monday as well.
Yeah, a few other ladies I know, they got messages that it wouldn't be out, was it yesterday and today, due to stuck in the tunnel.
Oh.
Everyone's wondering what's stuck in the tunnel. Is it the Dartford tunnel where it's been gone to greys, or is it, Channel Tunnel?
Who knows? It's one of life's mysteries, I guess. Okay, so for this card, we have got our scalloped rectangle, and I'm going to stamp my cat straight onto my rectangle. And for that, I'm using Memento ink. Give that a good inking. And I'm going to pop him on so that he's probably about an inch away from the left-hand side. A nice stamp. So we've got our cat. The reason I've stamped him on the background is because I don't want to have to fussy cut this balloon out. But what I'm going to do as well is I'm going to stamp him onto some scrap white as well. And this is the one that I'm going to colour in detail. Okay, because we're going to raise our cat a little bit out of his cupcake. Okay. So now we've done our rectangle, we can actually stick that on our card front. And I'm going to stick this down with some dimensionals just to raise ever so slightly. If you haven't got dimensionals, you can just stick that down flat. It won't matter too much. And if you're popping in the post, you might want to be mindful of how much depth you put on your card. Because the posts ain't cheap anymore. Turning that over and popping that on. And that's going to sit just in the centre of that card front. Okay, and once again, we're going to put that to one side. And we're going to start colouring our little kitty cat. So I've actually used, for the cat, I have used crumb cake ink, or crumb cake blends, should I say, and I'm using both the light and the dark. And then the blue tones that I've got, I'm using Balmy Blue for my light shade, and I'm using Night of Navy as my dark shade. Okay. Night of Navy is one of those colours I don't often use for my blends, to the point where this is the, remember back to when blends were first sold, these are my original blends. How old they are. I've just not used them. So for me, I always start with the lighter colour first. So I'm going to colour with my Balmy Blue. When I say lighter colour, I mean of the three colours I've chosen, I'm starting with the lighter colour. And I am going to start with the light shade. And I'm going to colour in the dot in the cupcake cake, the balloon, his bow, and some of the hat. Now, my preference when I'm colouring is with the fine tip, unless it's a really big area, just my go-to end of the pen. There is no right or wrong. Some people prefer the felt tip end and others prefer this end, but just do what you feel most comfortable with. Okay. Now, we don't need to colour the balloon in because we need to colour the balloon in on our card base. And I have left, I'll just raise this to the camera slightly, so that we've got a little light coming down. I have left just a little area with no ink on it. So I've just been really careful when I've coloured. Okay. And then bringing in my dark one, just going to add a little bit of shading just here and there on my cupcakes, on bubbles, and on my hat. And with the balloon, I'm going to run this around the bottom half in a sort of moon shape. Can you see that there? Just to give the illusion that that bit of the balloon is in the shadow. And then taking my light shade again, just going to run my pen over between the light and the dark where it meets. And always remember, your blends will dry a bit darker, a bit lighter. So it'll go on looking quite dark, but it will dry lighter. So I've just added a little bit of lighting there to my wee balloon. Pop that one back over there. And then I'm going to start now with my cat. So for my cat, I'm going to use the felt tip end because it's a bigger space. And I'm going to give him a really nice colour all the way over. And this is the light crumb cake I'm starting with. Do tell me if I'm going too fast or if you've got any questions. And I'm not colouring his nose in. I'm going to colour his nose in with a darker colour. Okay. So my little cat, oh, I've got a new crayon. Right, my little cat looks just like that. And then what I like about this stamp and what I'm always guided by is any shading that we've got in it already. So here he's got his little tiger stripes coming in. So I'm going to add my darker shade to where those tiger stripes come in. And I'm just going to follow it down in a little triangular shape that are already there. Okay. I'm just following that down. And I'm going to add a little bit of shading under the hat and to his hair, and then the little shading on the tail. So right now he just looks like a stripy cat. Oh, that's it, it's zoomed in now. Then picking up the light blend again, I'm gonna just colour over that darker area and just spread that ink out a bit. Okay. So there you can see him. He's got a little bit more depth to him now. And then the last colour we're going to go in with is our darkest colour, which is our Night of Navy. And I'm starting with the lighter shade. And I'm going to colour in around my circles or my dots on my cupcake case. And this is a really busy image actually, so I'm just going to round those sections first really carefully. I'm going quiet because I'm concentrating. Okay, so now I've gone around all my circles. I'm going to fill in the gaps using the thicker end of the pen. It doesn't matter too much if you go over the edge at the bottom because we're going to cut this cupcake case out. Oh, goodness me. Don't you just love it when this happens? Oh, done it. So now I'm just going to go around the edges with the dark pen to just bring in a bit of shadow. But I'm not worried too much about shadow on this because it's quite a busy image already. Okay. So now I have got my cat in my cupcake coloured in. I'm going to cut it out. So let's just trim around like so. Now what I'm actually going to do is I am going to around my cupcake case and I'm cutting along the zigzag line because I want to add a little bit of depth to this image. I'm just being really careful with my scissors. Like so. Okay. And I'm cutting out on the line, which is not something I do very often. I usually cut out with a little white border, but I'm not this time. And then I'm just taking my bone folder and just curling it ever so slightly. So you get a little bit of definition on that cupcake. So then when you put it back on, you get that nice curved look. Oh, Claire, come back in, Claire. And then we're going to carry on cutting out around our cat. And again, I'm cutting out on the line and I'm cutting that balloon off. Just remembered I've not coloured his nose in, so I need to colour his nose in. But we'll do that when we finish. And you could, if you wanted to, you could always use a different patterned DSP and then just change out the colours of your cupcake case and the hat to match the colour paper you've chosen. Okay, so we've got our cat, and I'm going to stick my cat down nice and flat. So the reason we've stamped the background is because we didn't want to have to cut out this balloon. So let's just pop some glue on him. And stick them down. Just like so. Okay, so we've got our cat sitting in our uncoloured cupcake. Now, when you put this back on, you actually see the bottom of that, the top of that cupcake case. So I'm just going to really carefully colour in a bit of that cupcake case so that we don't see that. Like so. Okay, and then we're going to pop this on, and I'm just going to stick that down with a few little dimensionals in the centre to raise.
Stacey, can you let me in again, please?
I've just pushed go. You should be coming in.
No, I think it's playing up and I can hardly see on my phone. I'm struggling.
Oh
no. I'll keep trying.
Okay, lovely. I'll keep letting you in.
Yeah, tablet seems to be not letting me get in.
Oh dear. It's not our night, is it?
No. Some reason it's taken me to the Stampin' Up sign-in page.
That's strange.
Yeah.
Okay, keep trying.
I will.
So
okay, I mean, I'll try. I'll catch up later if I can't.
Right.
But I'll try. It's just okay. I can't see well enough to follow the
I bet. Bless you. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add just a few little black dots to the background of my card, like so. And what that does is that just breaks up that background a little bit. And then using a black fine line pen, and I've just got an old Stampin' Up fine liner, but you can use whichever one you want. I'm just going to draw me a little line inside the border of that scalloped rectangle. Okay. And it's not perfect, but it's handmade. Okay. And that just, I think, draws the eye in nicely to what we want it to be drawn into. So then the next thing we've got to do is our sentiment. I've chosen It's All About You. Who doesn't love a day that's all about them? And I'm going to stamp this just with Memento ink onto that front of the card. Like so. It's all about you. And then to finish, I've just got some of this really nice metallic ribbon. This is the Starry Sky one, and I'm going to feed it through one of the holes in the die, and I'm going to tie a nice little bow. Now you've probably got more ribbon than you need. Recording in progress. Just put you on mute, Claire, to avoid the screeching, but come back in when you're ready. Turn your mic on when you're ready. Okay. And there we have card number 1, all finished. And I really like that. I think it's quite simple, but there's quite a lot going on. And the cat, he looks lovely coloured in that little combination of colours. Okay. So that is my first card done and dusted. We are cooking with gas, ladies. So we'll move on to the next one. So my next one is, I think this is the next one, but I can't remember. Should have written it down, shouldn't I? I'm going to go on to this one here, which is with the cat again. And sometimes I find when you have images like this, you sometimes don't want to use all of it. So I do love me a little bit of partial stamping. And I've kept the colours very, very simple. And I've chosen not to colour the cat at all. So I will show you how I've made that. Now, in your kits, you will have a card base, and that is just thick white card. Just going to move my blend out of the way. That is thick white card. And then you have 2 layers of white as well. One is for your outside and one is for your inside. So you can stick those in straight away. Like so. And then this one is going to go on that outside. Now, once you've stuck that down, again, bring in your black fine liner pen, and I'm going to just draw around the edge of that white layer we've just added. I would say a black fine line pen is an absolute must in your craft stash, especially when you're using white card. It just really can add a little bit more detail. Now, we can put that bit to one side now. For our trio of cats, I have got 3 circles, and these circles I've actually cut from the Picture This die. So they are the 2 circles that are the same size, and then the big circle in the middle. I use this die a lot, actually. It's one of my favourites. So when you've got sort of cute characters like this, I think it works really, really well. So what we're now going to do is we're going to stamp our little trio of cats onto our circles. Okay. So I'm going to just stamp up the whole stamp, and I'm going to line him up so that you can see his hat. The tip of the hat sits inside the circle, but we're not seeing the balloon. Like so. So you've got a teeny tiny bit of the balloon, but not a lot of it. So that's our main circle. That's our large one. And then again, re-ink your stamp. And then just move the stamp around a little bit. So place it at different angles. So there we have that one. And then I'm going to stamp the other side now. I'm going to move him to the right and stamp. So that's a really nice way to just change the way your image looks, especially if it's a big image and you think, I don't necessarily want to colour all of it, or it's not the sort of style of card I'm going for. And then as we put these on our card, oh, I've just got a black finger mark. That's annoying, isn't it? We'll cover that up shortly. We've got our 3 little kitties. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to colour the background of those images. So my colours that I've chosen, I have got Daffodil Delight for my yellow. I've got Calypso Coral for my pink, and I've got Bermuda Bay for my blue. Okay, and then I'm going to just colour around my image with the colour. Now, because we're not using any DSP on this card, you can choose whatever colours that you like. If you're thinking of a certain someone and you know what their favourite colour is, you could use that. Or you could even use 3 of the same colour. That would look nice as well. So I'm just colouring in and around. Really annoyed I've got that black finger mark on my card. Okay. And I'm just colouring in that background, making sure it's a really good depth of colour. So there is my little pink kitty cat. And we'll do our yellow one now. I'm going to use the dark actually. Dear, these blends have been used in a class and the nibs really aren't in a good way. What's the lid like on this one? That's mango. This is dark. There we go. This looks better. Okay. Just colour that one in. I think this sort of design would look nice with the owls as well in Celebration. There's my yellow. And then we want Bermuda Bay as our next one. And I quite like the fact that the cat isn't coloured in. You get a completely different look to him when you leave him uncoloured. Okay, so there is my green. That's really cute. I might have to stick another layer on so I can't see it. What side is it? Because it's quite an annoying smudge. I need to have a good tidy up out here this weekend. Let's stick another layer over the top. Much better. Right, I'm going to just go around the edge with my black pen. Like so. Right, so now let's bring our cats in, and I'm going to stick the middle one down onto foam pads, onto Stampin' Dimensionals. And he's going slap bang in the middle of the card. And then we've got our 2 extra pieces to go either side. So I'm just sliding them in so that they sit just inside the width of the card, and these are going down flat. One and 2. There we go. So there's our little trio of cats. And we need to do a little bit of stamping. We're going to stamp Happy Birthday, which is from this stamp set. And that's being stamped in Memento as well. I've got a lot of ink on that. I'm just going to put a little bit more ink on it. Line it up so it's straight, or as straight as you can get it, and stamp. Now you'll notice on this one here, I've got some black dots in the background. All I'm using is my black stamping blend, and I'm using the fine end, and I'm just really carefully adding me a selection of dots. And I really like that. What do we think, girls?
Beautiful, lovely.
It's quite simple, but I quite like how sometimes simple just is best, isn't it? So that is our second card. All done. We're racing through these. It's only 8 o'clock. Right. So we've used the cat in quite a lot in both of our cards. Our first 2 cards, we've got some black and white cats. We've got a blue and crumb cake cat. And we're moving on to the birthday cake next. I do love a birthday cake stamp, and it doesn't feel like we've had one for a little while. So card number 3 looks like this, and I have used the DSP from the Dainty Designs pack to really focus my colours on this card. I used the scalloped contour dies as well, or shall I say again, because we do love a scallop contour die, or I do. I'm going to give this a nice little crease. In your pack, you've got a white card base. You have 2 layers of white card. One is for your front and the other is for your inside. And you can stick those down straight away. Like so. So once you've done that, you've then got your 3 pieces of designer series paper. The colours of this, you've got Mango Melody, Coastal Cabana and Highland Heather. Now I've chosen those 3 patterns, but you could, if you wanted to, mix them up a bit and have them slightly different. it's entirely up to you, but I'm going to make the card as I've designed it. And I'm going to start with my mango piece. And it sits just inside that piece of white card. We've got the border, so we've got mango at the top, Postal Cabana in the middle, and Highland Heather at the bottom. So 3 nice candy stripes. Once we've done that, we can then start work on our colouring and our stamping. So we're not going to stick this bit on first. We're going to colour, we're going to stamp before we stick. So in a similar way to the first card that we made, we're going to stamp onto our rectangle first, so that we don't have to worry about cutting out these stems of the happy. Okay. Give this a nice little stamp. And that's being stamped right in the centre of that die. So first things first, I'm going to stamp the happy, or not stamp, colour the happy, and I'm colouring with Highland Heather ink. And I've created a little bit of an ombre effect here, and I've done that by colouring with the lighter shade at the top and then the darker shade at the bottom. Okay, I'll just do that now. And I've gone sort of just 2/3 of the way down the letter with this light shade. Like so. Just lift it up so you can see it a bit better. We've got the light shade at the top, and now we're going to put the dark shade on the bottom. And you want to overlap it just ever so slightly. Like that. So you've got a real difference in colour. And how we're gonna do what these say there, we're gonna blend now. So what I'm going to do is just go over the area where the two colours meet. Just blend that in. Like so. Okay, so you then breaks up that real contrast, and it just blends the two nicely. Now we've done that, we can stick that down, and I'm going to stick down with some dimensionals, and then all the rest of the work is going to be done on scraps. So that's now stuck in the centre of our card. Now, what we're going to do next is, if I bring this up, you'll notice that the birthday banner is coloured in the background with blue, but actually that's not coloured with blends. I've stamped it onto this DSP here. And then also the cake stand, the plate at the bottom, that's also DSP. So we're going to do a little bit of paper piercing. So you're going to need your papers that are in your kits. So the colours that I've used this petal pink colour. It's got sort of hexagons on it, and on the back you've got a zigzaggy line. And I want the blue as well. Now I actually think the plate would look nice in the purple or the yellow, but I'm going to make it as I intended. Just move that out the way. So with this one here, we're going to stamp happy birthday. Sorry, we're going to stamp birthday. You do get a little bit of waste by doing this, but if you're really clever, you could cut out the happy letters. Trim that along and then trim around the banner. And this sort of paper piercing technique is a great way of colouring in your images without picking up a pen. Just trimming around this banner. I actually love this birthday banner. Okay. And then what you do is you just place it over the banner and you stick it down, and it's been stuck down with just some wet glue. There you are. And it brings in the blue DSP. We've got the purple matching the DSP at the bottom. And then for our cake stand, we're going to do exactly the same, but we're just going to stamp the bottom of the cake. Okay. And so that we're not worried, we're not cutting out that fluted section, what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut around the bottom of the plate. Right around the top, and then just cut it inwards so that you're not actually going to see that. You just want to try and cut on the line closely as you can. You put your DSP to one side, and then this bit is going to get stuck. It's a bit crazy at the moment, but all will come together when we do the next part. Make sure it doesn't move. So we've now got our cake plate, our birthday sign, and all that's left to do now is our cake. So we want our scrap white again. On the floor. And we're going to stamp just the cake part this time, just the whole cake. So, and we will colour the cake in. So the cake, I have used, I think I've used Daffodil Delight as opposed to Mango Melody, and I've used the light Bermuda Bay. And then for the cake, just bear with me a moment and I'll work out which shade I've used. So I think I've used SU 500 for the cake. Yeah, I have SU 500. It's one of the skin tone blends. But if you didn't want to use that one, you could use crumb cake would look nice. The light shade would be sort of grey looking, whereas the dark shade would be a little bit lighter. So there's your difference in the blends. But I really like this one here. It's sort of a coffee looking cake. So we're going to start with the same principle. We're going to start with our lightest colour, which is our yellow, for our cake. I'm just using the dark shade. Moment. Colour all the way around. Be sure not to colour in those nice dots. And you can be as creative as you want with your cake. You'll notice I haven't touched the top yet, and there's a reason for that. And I'll show you what I'm going to do next. Okay, just go around that middle part. So I've left the top part white. So I'm going to bring in my lighter shade and just colour in the top bit, because what that does is it just makes it look like it's got a little bit of light showing on it. See that? It's really hard to pick up on Zoom actually. Our next piece we're going to use is our light Bermuda Bay. I'm going to colour in the ribbon across the front of the cake. And then the dots on our cake. Not forgetting our dots up here. It's a shame we don't have a Coastal Cabana blend, but if you use the light shade, it's pretty close. Okay, and then the last bit we have is the actual cake itself. And this one is SU 500 I'm using. Lovely looking coffee cake. Now with this one, because there isn't necessarily shades of this, I'm going to use the same pen and just go over the area that I want to shade. I want to add in some darker sort of areas. Okay, so there we have my little coloured cake, and I'm going to cut it out now. And in the same way as we've done with the paper piecing, I'm going to cut out on the line, and this is the bit where we need to cut out that little scalloped bottom of the cake. Nearly there. And then with this, there's a few little lumpy bits on the side, so just be careful when you cut around those. You can tell it's the end of the week. My words are just failing me. Okay, so now I've done that, just clear away my stuff. We can now take our cake and we can stick it down on top of our card, like so. And that's going to cover up this whole extra bit of the plate that we've got going on. And there we go. That is the finished card. And the last card in my little set of cards. So, what do we think, girls? Do we have a favourite? Have I given you some ideas on how to use this one?
I like the 3 circled ones.
It's cute, isn't it? It's nice because you're not using the whole image and you get a completely different look, don't you?
Yeah.
I like that one too. So I'm just going to put my pens away. Do you think with this cake, like the options are endless with colouring it in? I really do. I've seen more of the cat used than I have seen the cake used so far. But that might just be me. So girls, I'm going to stop the recording